Grace and peace, family. I hope everybody's feeling blessed today. All right, we got a really good topic for you guys. This video is specifically going to be one of the first of my conversations with my minis series. You're going to love them. It's going to be awesome. In these conversations, I pretty much chat about my parenting style. Why? Because I will say I've already been successful with one, and we're going to keep it going. Not to mention, the knowledge that God has implanted in me is what allows me to raise my children in a very successful manner. So I create very healthy mindsets and solid, strong mindsets within children. I have 2 children, for those of you who don't know. I have one who's well on her way to being 21, and I have an 11-year-old at home. So this very first video is going to be awesome because it's all about cussing. Now, why would I make a video about cussing? I'm going to tell you why, okay? Because I let my kids cuss. Yes, I do. So at the age of 11, I personally feel like it is okay for my children to cuss. Now, I know a lot of people, they sitting there like, what? Girl, how dare you? And mainly because they were raised the opposite way, and believe it or not, so was I. I was raised in that way where you bet not curse. You better not be caught cussing. Nobody better say you was found cussing out. No, none of it. And if you slipped up in front of an adult, even if it wasn't your own mama, expect the backhand. Yep. I was raised very much the same way. And even as a child, I didn't understand it. Why is so much emphasis on not cussing when there's so many other things wrong? And honestly, I still feel the same way. So I was wise beyond my years as a little girl, and I'll be wise forever. So when it really comes down to why in certain families, certain lineages, they don't believe in cussing, I understand why. I understand all the reasons why. I actually wrote them down, and I got you. I'm going to go ahead not only and rattle them off for you, but I'm going to show you why I feel the opposite once I do. So the first reason why I have you ain't supposed to be cussing is there are better ways to enforce communication. This I do agree. Cussing is not mandated, and as far as I'm concerned. It's not something that I say, oh no, you should be. It's something that I allow as an additive if it was to happen. Now, when I say that communication matters, it really does. Your child should know how to communicate effectively before you even allow them to think that they could cuss. Now, these are lessons that I teach from the age of 6 months. Yes, 6 months old. My youngest was talking by the time she was 8 months old in full sentences. 6 months old. I teach you need to be able to communicate so that not only can I understand you, I can help you with your comfort. What you're looking for, I can help you get there if you can get me to understand what you need. So my girls learned early to be able to convey what they needed. So if your child has not been groomed from 6 months old all the way to about 10 years old, where they're able to eloquently convey what they need, how they need it, why they want it, or what is going on, no, cussing is a no-no. But if you have that down, where your child can tell you, like my little one, by the time she was 4 years old, I need to learn how to read because I don't trust all adults to tell me everything because not every adult is smart. Yes, that was a conversation at 4. If they can't do that, they shouldn't be allowed to cuss. So yes, I do agree with that fact. But no, they should be able to communicate. That is the first thing. And no, cussing is not something that should be held in your vocabulary as a mandate. It is an additive only to express yourself. And the second one I have is that it's not ladylike or becoming. Now, I will say it isn't. In the wrong settings, cussing it can feel a bit shameful. But this is the reason why they should be allowed to cuss. Because how do they know what settings are the right settings? They need to learn that. And where you can tell them, you telling someone what to do is not the best teacher. The best teacher is always experience. So, being that it is not ladylike, I will say I do understand this very well. It is very much not the case. There are other factors that are on the list that are above cussing. Gossiping is not becoming. So if you, as a parent, gossip in front of your children, you are teaching them that is okay. I think I had a couple more. Complaining. These are not becoming. So if cussing is at the top of your list and all of these are beneath it, the order of things are a little out of whack. I'd rather teach my child not to gossip and not to talk about others in shameful ways and not to be loving and caring versus cussing in a time of need or expression. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, it is not becoming, but it's only not becoming when they use it inappropriately. So cussing at someone, that's one of the very first lessons that I have for my children, and that is established. You don't call anyone out of their name, and you don't cuss at people, at souls. And these are lessons that they understand very well, because that's as easy as saying, if I was to call you an MFer or the B word, how would you feel? And that's really all I had to say. So they understand that they're not allowed to speak to others that way. As far as expression, again, that's where cussing can draw the line. And the third one I had here was because I said so. Now, we all know this good old statement. If you come from a household where there's no cussing allowed, you don't ask why, because you're going to get hit with the because I said so. Now, this one reason needs to be just completely taken out of any parental statements, because anytime it is applied, it does way more damage than it does success. The words because I said so, without an explanation behind them, breeds children to become people pleasers. Simply because when you tell a child to do something and they don't need to ask any questions, or they're not allowed to ask you why, they are now going to apply that even when they become older. They will work for companies and businesses that tell them to do things and they won't ask why they have to. They will have friends who tell them to do things, and because they trust them, they won't ask why. It breeds a following mindset, and that does way more harm than simply explaining why you want something. So if you don't have polished out reasons as to why you are equipping certain guidelines in your household, rethink why you have them, because they should be able to be explained in its entirety. So now that we got all of that out the way, which I knew definitely needed to be pushed, because a lot of people are going to come with the, oh, I don't do X, Y, and Z, and I understand whys. Remember, I come from that household. I was raised in that house where you just don't do it because you're not supposed to. You're not allowed. But when I really looked at how I wanted to parent my children and what it did to me mentally to be in those positions, and you now fully apply the psychology of a child as well as the mindset of an adult when you compare the two, you really want to rethink if keeping things going just because that was what you were taught. This is also how generational curses get passed down, because instead of you questioning the curse, instead of you questioning why something existed that never had a reason or didn't have a purpose and didn't fit, you keep it going because of nostalgia, because that's how you've seen it done. So a lot of things need to be dismantled. This is one. I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you guys. Now, I'm going to get into the reasons why I do allow the cursing now, because I want you to understand where I come from when it comes to teaching my children. The first thing I am going to talk about is the fact that I am a teacher. I am a teacher by right. Once I became a mother, I am no longer in the role of a lifelong student. I am now officially a teacher of how to live life as well. And my children are my first students. Now, with that being said, how you go about teaching your children will determine whether or not you are a teacher or a warden. Yes, because you can make your parenting style feel more like a prison than a home. So let's get into this aspect of things. So the first area I'm going to touch on is understanding the mindset of a child. We intend to teach our children right and wrong by establishing rules within our household that keep them from doing things. But what we don't understand is that when you look at it from the mindset of a child, or even remember your childhood, because I feel like this is why a lot of people stick to those same rules that they were taught as kids. They forgot what it was like to be a child, to hear these rules and how you had to apply it. When you think of how a child applies a certain rule, you understand that sometimes what you intend is not what you're giving off. So like I said, you're intending on teaching right from wrong, when really the lesson should be self-control. Now, what do I mean? I'm going to go into it. When you tell a child what they cannot do, and the thing you say that they cannot do, they see everyone doing the thing around them, and they are told they can't do it, which technically, think about it, they can do it. It's not a can't. They're not allowed. That now makes you a warden of the thing. So they look at the world and they realize, I have restrictions on what I can do, because obviously I can't make good decisions. This is how a child thinks of it, is that you have to police me because I'm not capable of policing myself. And when you think about it from that aspect, you technically are putting your child on a leash unknowingly. And it actually breeds the opposite of what you want to go on, where you want them to not curse at all. Instead, they do it in secret. Because the biggest influencers to your child is not you, it's the other children around them. So where you have this rule of not cussing, and maybe the other parents around your child has the same rule, they are being exposed to children who maybe do it a lot more freely outside of the presence of their parent. So they sneak and they do it too. So with understanding this, I recognize that the lesson that we want to teach needs to match up with how you enforce the lesson. By allowing the thing with understanding of how to use this thing as a weapon, you now give them more power of it, because you are teaching them how to control themselves. You are teaching them that you trust them to have self-control. And that is a way more powerful lesson than right from wrong, because you can be in a right situation and handle it the right way and it be the wrong time. Since there's always a gray area, right from wrong almost doesn't exist, because things are always variable. We understand that committing a murder is terrible. You shouldn't do it. But if you did it to save your life or the life of another, now we kind of say it's okay. If rules can be bent, then they can be broken. And that's what you're teaching your children when you create rules. Replace rules with lessons. And now you're teaching instead of putting them in prison. The next reason why I allow cussing when my child is around me is because I need to understand who my child is naturally. I've seen a lot of parents who don't know their children, where someone says their child did something, they sometimes will not believe it, or they'll believe everything. When it comes down to how my children speak and how they convey and express, I need to know their natural way to do it, and then the way that is revamped when it is applied in a way that doesn't quite work. And I will give you an example. If my child is upset and she just right now she wants to express herself, she says, I want to express myself loosely, and I let her express herself, I now know what loosely means to her. she could potentially be telling me about a situation, and maybe in that situation, say someone acted like a bee. I can now ask questions. When you say they acted like a bee, what do you mean? Now, the definition may be like, she acted like an animal. I can change the word bee to she acted like a pig. Now, it's not a cuss word, but technically it is the same thing, right? Animal. So understanding how it is applied, I now know where my child is going to go. So if I was to ever get a phone call stating that my child is cussing another child out, and I know that that is not something that my child even believes in, I now can protect them from the fact that they were expressing themselves and someone's trying to use that expression against them. So it allows you to understand your child better, because instead of hiding it, like the children who cuss outside of their parents' presence, and their parents may not know until they find out someone else told them about it, I now know what my child would say. And it's easier for me to protect her, not only from herself, but from those who will misunderstand her purposely. The last reason I have for allowing the cussing is for educational purposes. By allowing this, especially at the age of 11, your child gets to understand when they can apply this type of expression in a safe and comfortable manner. Now, if they were around friends and they were speaking loosely, cussing may not be so shameful. It may be done in good fun, and you definitely would not want to do it in a wild way. But if you were, say, around grandma, and you were to cuss loosely, and grandma was to give you the look of uncomfortability, that look is a lesson in itself. Because what your child would learn in that moment is, I don't want to curse around everyone. I don't want to say things that offend people in my presence. They inadvertently learn how to code switch. So they learn that there will be times where they need to say, I don't appreciate how you're talking to me. I find it to be very disrespectful, and I actually would like to not socialize with you right now, versus saying, get the F out of my face. Now, I know that my children can do both, and I do also know that one can be a little bit more effective in a situation where they may need to. I've also noticed, by allowing my children to cuss at the age of 11, that by the time they get to the age of 13, they no longer have the desire to cuss. So where we try to teach that cussing is such a terrible thing in households and families around people, I've seen adults cuss in situations where they shouldn't, get upset in situations where they shouldn't, and their children are watching and learning. And instead of them realizing that do as I say, not as I do lesson actually just makes your children look at you as a hypocrite, which means they cannot trust you, you can impart a lesson in a way that allows them to feel safe in your presence and learn how to grow into a sustainable adult. Now, one thing I want to do is I'm going to bring my little one in. I did write down a couple of questions that I want to ask her and get her opinion on this. So let me go get her, and we'll go ahead and see what a child thinks about these rules, these instructions, and these lessons, and how it affects them personally. All right, so we are back, and this is my mini. This is my 11-year-old. Her name is Yuli. We're going to go ahead and ask her some questions to see how she feels about this whole topic. Because I feel like what better way to really figure out if your parenting is beneficial to your children than to ask the children you're parenting, right? Right? Just ask you directly. I could just ask her, well, how you feel about my parenting? Now, if your kids got issues with your parenting, I'm going to be honest, you really need to sit with them and talk about a whole bunch of different things, but it's a whole nother topic for a whole nother situation. We're going to talk about this one first. So I have some questions I want to ask you, all right? And the reason why I'm asking you these questions is because my topic today was on cussing.
Oh.
So, as you already know, because you live in life, since about May, I've allowed you to be able to cuss freely. And this, is my second rodeo. I did the same with your sister. And there's a method to why I allow you to cuss. And I went into that explanation for my lovies and let them know why I feel cussing is something that should be allowed in a household and the benefits from it. So my question is pretty much to ask you how you're doing and how you feel about some of those topics, okay? Okay. So the very first question I have is, how do you feel when you see adults contradict themselves, or when they say things like, because I told you to, or I told you not to?
I feel kind of like disrespected because they're telling me, and also controlled, because they're telling me that I need to do something that they don't even do just for the sake of no reason. And they don't even give you a proper explanation. So if you don't want to curse, it makes you want to curse more. Imagine like, oh, who you think you are trying to tell me, oh, to not do this? I want to do it now. And then you start doing it more, and it becomes a habit, and it becomes kind of a really obnoxious thing to do.
Okay, all right. Have you ever felt embarrassed cussing around somebody that you respected?
Most definitely, yeah, because I feel like if there's somebody that's either higher than you or that you just mutually respect, then you shouldn't be kind of using a lot of profanity against them, because it makes you look illiterate, meaning that your vocabulary isn't as extended. Basically, that you have no other words to express yourself besides damn, etc.
Okay. I was going to ask how that made you feel. Would you explain that one? Can you cuss any way you want?
No. I don't think so, only because there's certain places and certain times where you have to learn how to manage it. Like, you can open it in some spaces, but in other spaces, you probably can't do it, such as really quiet rooms and being loud while using profanity, or with people that you really respect and you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of, or with people that could kind of easily ruin your self-esteem, sort of, such as teachers seeing that. Because then you have to get berated, maybe by your mom, if you don't have cool parents like mine.
I'm a cool parent. I'm a cool parent, y'all. Boom, boom, boom. Drop in the comments. I'm a cool parent. That's cool, thanks. Do you want to cuss more or less since you've been allowed to curse this year?
I kind of want to curse less, because even though I'm allowed to curse, it doesn't mean that I have to use it to express myself every single step of the way. And as I get older, I'm going to start using it less and less. Why not start now? It shows a sign of maturity, first of all. Second of all, I don't look like a fool who's illiterate and just saying damn and cuss words every single time because I don't have other words. It means that my vocabulary is way more extended than what I put it as. And so when I use other words like darn it, dang, this is really sad, this is a really sad moment for me, I really don't like this moment, I sincerely apologize, instead of damn, I'm sorry. But it makes me look more mature and smart and intelligent.
To not use cuss words.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't really have any other questions. Do you have anything else that you want to say? I do know of teenagers, when they are out and about by themselves, that there are times they get in a little rambunctious and they start cussing wildly. Is that one of the ways that you kind of look at what you don't want to be, or you aspire to be like them? What do you do with that?
Well, I don't like comparing myself to others, especially in a negative way where it makes me seem like I'm the hierarchy because I don't do one aspect. Which, it's not bad to curse, especially if you're expressing yourself. If you're a wild kid, that's technically not a bad kid, but if you're a kid that really likes being wild and crazy, but not in a bad way, then you can express yourself whenever you feel needed. But I'm not saying to be out of control and make it seem like you don't know any other word besides any swear word in the vocabulary.
Okay, so let me give you an example of what I mean by wild. Let's say you are on the city bus, right? And 6 teenage kids get on And we've seen this, like when they get on the bus and they've been like loud and belligerent, they're cussing, but like there's children around, there's older people around, everybody's on this bus, and the way that they're cussing is a little uncomfortable. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel that I personally do not like profanity and swear words, and that's my opinion. And I also do not like hearing it, which makes me feel that in my soul, I'm a person who does not like expressing themselves too much to the point where they become brain dead and they do not have any other vocabulary words. Basically, it all traces back to being illiterate, because I just do not want to be perceived as a person who's just like spaces out whenever it comes to expressing themselves, especially without using profanity. I would fail a quiz. I look like the type of person that would fail a quiz. It was asked, what is a word to say damn it without cussing? And it looked like I would fail that test. I really don't want
to be that person.
Yeah.
I understand very much, because it's about yourself. And that was the reason why I wanted to make this video, because where many would say that allowing your child to cuss kind of is not ladylike, it's not becoming, you're right, it isn't. But by allowing you to come up with that decision for yourself,
that's the thing. You have to
that's
realize,
the lesson.
and
That's
you
why
have
it's
to
a
like,
lesson.
you have to learn it by yourself. You can't say like, Mom, what happens if I do? You have to learn through experience. That's what life is literally all about. So if profanity is one thing, especially in a step in your life, then experience it so that you know what to do. God gives you the paths every single time that you experience. He's like, good job, you're rewarded with another piece of your puzzle.
Yes, and these are the life lessons. My job here is to be your teacher, to be your instructor on how to live a life that is going to be comfortable for you, so that you can develop into the young lady that you're supposed to be. Now, the only way I can do that is by allowing you exposure. I can't tell you what not to do, but I can show you what could work out best for you. And those are the keys. That's the reason why I wanted to make this video, because I do feel like a lot of us, especially, when we come from minority households, there's certain rules that are in place that we keep going just because that's how we were raised. It's good for us to question these rules and these statements, because it allows you to better educate your children and put them on a path that is going to be more beneficial. So I'm going to end this right here. Thank you so much for being here for this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You're a family. Do all those things. And we'll be back in the next one. Thanks again. Love and light, y'all.
And peace.